So that went well. Then the next day, Nayte rolls up, meets the parents. What did we think of that meet and greet?
Admittedly,
went differently.
It did not go well. I mean, here's the thing. I like Nayte. I've liked Nayte the whole season. I think that it's entirely possible to like a person and also feel like you don't quite understand. I shouldn't say that. It's not that I don't understand why he was there, but I liked him a lot while feeling like he and Michelle were very much not on the same page.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think there's any way that you can look at that date and say that it went well. He stumbled over his words the whole time. It was kind of the same relationship, kind of like watching his relationship with Michelle play out with other people because her parents are like, tell me more.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I'll try to tell you more. You know, like it didn't go well.
No.
It didn't make me not like him. It just did not go well.
Yeah.
Right. And it's impossible as a viewer to not compare the two. And it was like two sides of a coin. Like Brandon gave you exactly what you needed when you're meeting a family. And Nayte, it was just more red flags. I mean, he couldn't articulate it. It's not, I don't think that he can't articulate his feelings. I don't think he wanted to. I don't think at this point he was there.
Yeah.
And that was obvious to certainly the mom.
Yeah.
You know, a killer, stone cold, went in there, was like, I just don't think that you care enough about my daughter, which respect.
Yeah. What was alarming to me was like, I feel like articulating the feelings is like one thing. Like, what was alarming to me was that the fact-based questions in terms of like, are you ready to move to Minnesota? Like, I think the dad was like asking Nayte the same question he had asked Brandon about Michelle wants her career to look a certain way. Like, are you ready to jump on board? And he was like, I don't know. And the dad was like, well, she wants to live here. Like there's nowhere else that she's going to be living. And so to me, those are like, that's not a feeling. That's like a fact, you know, like either you talked about that or you haven't. And either you are ready to do those things or you're not. And so that to me was kind of like, well, what did y'all talk about in the fantasy suite?
Like, yeah, I think his response to that particular question even was like, oh, you know, we keep daydreaming of all these places we're going to escape to together. We have a bucket list of cities we want to see. Yeah. And it's like, dude, that's not what he asked.
Right. That's called traveling.
Yeah. And you can also travel, but where are you going to live?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Are we clear on his profession?
His tagline has said sales executive. So
what was Brandon's? Did you catch his?
He's a nurse.
Yeah.
Traveling nurse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because Brandon said his job was all remote or online or something.
He said he was a reverse recruiter, like traveling nurse recruiter. So yeah.
Interesting. My cousin's a nurse. She does like remote casework. So like, I don't know. I just was curious because like Michelle obviously is a teacher and she's very passionate about her job. I imagine you could be passionate about that wherever, but it seems to me, I don't know. He never talked about what he does and it being important to him. So I'm like, probably could have been clearer when they asked you, would you be willing to move?
Right.
Yes.
Right. Which Brandon was. He's like, yeah, sure. Be there tomorrow. Yeah, sure. I can change my job. Yeah, sure. I'll support Michelle. It was like if these were two different job interviews and the parents are the interviewers and Brandon and Nayte are the candidates. Like, I think there's an obvious winner.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it just didn't seem like you said, CJ, like he had thought through what exactly were the next steps. It's like, why is this now? It seems like you're just now considering these questions as they're being asked, but this is your future.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And theoretically you're proposing tomorrow or, you know, the next day at best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nayte's like your typical people. Like Nayte really frustrate me. In our comments, there are a lot of people like, there was some people who were like, you know, Nayte is having very standard feelings for someone who has known someone for 2 weeks. And while I do agree with that, and that is a valid point, it is frustrating to me when people have that rebuttal for someone who went on The Bachelor. Like, this is what the show is. And if you don't think that you're the kind of person who can fall in love with someone that quickly, then it's not for you. Why are you here?
Yeah. That's real. Well, I
And
think
Nate definitely seems like that person where he's just like, oh, I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
did y'all catch when he said he had brought 2 suits for the
Yeah.
whole? I don't think he intended to stay long at all. I think it was a surprise to him.
Yeah, I think so too. And I when he said that, and she seemed really, he said it pretty, he was cavalier about it, and she didn't seem offended. I'm sensitive, so like I would be like, oh, okay, rude. But
Yeah,
but I
same.
wonder if he actually meant like if it was more just like a confidence thing, like, oh, I just like don't have a ton. But I would have absolutely looked at it as like, oh, I wanted to be here for long enough to be here, you know,
Yeah.
to make the Instagram work, to make whatever happen. And so I brought 2 suits. I genuinely don't think that that was what was going on. But for him to just like drop that so casually, I was like, what on earth?
Yeah. That's absolutely would have been my thought process too. Like,
Yeah. What's your plan? Also,
Yeah.
how to get more suits. Someone figure that out.
yeah.
Yeah, because he did have multiple suits, and he was also by far the tallest person there. So it wasn't like he was like borrowing suits.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he just like is searching for anything because even after the parents are gone, they express their concerns to Michelle. It still feels like their conversation is Michelle begging him to love her the
Yeah.
way she needs him to. That's
Yeah.
how I read it. I mean, it always felt like a tug, like, give me more, give me more. I want it to be you.
Yeah. And I mean, she would say that. Like, she would literally say that in her confessionals. She'd be like, I want Nate to open up more about this. I need him to say these words to me. And then he did eventually. And she's like, okay, now I feel good.
After asking enough.
Yeah.
It's so
Like, here, Nate, here's the script. Please read this.
Right. Just read your line.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me so frustrated with both of them, actually. Like, I'm not going to give Michelle a free pass on it either, because like it is frustrating for me to watch her ask him to say these things. She asks him, he does, and she's like, oh, okay, I'm good now. It's
Yeah.
like, that's frustrating for me. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have to ask. Like, I think it's totally fine to be the way that Nate is, to be like a little bit guarded about your feelings and a little bit like anxious about like letting them out and doing it too quickly. I get all that, but it was just so frustrating to watch it play out the way it did. Like, tell me this, please tell me this. Okay, like you twisted my arm, I'll tell you this. Thank
Exactly.
you.
Yeah. I just
It
think
seems like she
so
was kind
caught
of
up.
that. It seems like she was kind of that way with her parents too. Like there was a little tinge of like, tell me he's the right one. But they
Yeah.
were like,
Yeah.
we ain't gonna tell you that.
Yeah. If you want more of where that came from, be sure to check out our full episode recap. It'll be linked in the description as well as pop up on this screen.